In general, there are several places that you can do this. There's kind of a early music has a niche in the chamber music scene, which is where if you go to concert series, every chamber concert series has an early music concert. If you go to a college series, they might have a classical string quartet, they might have a jazz ensemble, they might have a taiko drum, then they'll have an early music group. That's a very common kind of eclectic concert series. So you could go do concert series, and I think a standard small chamber ensemble amount of concerts a year on one of those series is maybe anywhere between 15 and 50 concerts a year. Some groups do quite a lot. I think a common average would be 25 to 35 concerts a year doing those kinds of things. School shows, audience outreach concerts. There's also a whole scene of Baroque orchestra. So for string players and oboe players, there are Baroque orchestras in Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, the Bay Area, New York, Boston, Cleveland, Chicago area. I'm not so sure about Chicago. They're ensembles, but I don't know of a Baroque orchestra. So there are scenes that all these people are going around and doing gigs, playing for opera concerts of Baroque operas, and playing for regular series of Baroque orchestras. There are other small ways to make people teach. People also play for weddings and funerals and gigs, or play for festivals. Another thing that you can make money is going to Europe for festivals in the summer. So it's a field that has those certain places where people are making the regular gigs, but then there are all these little circles of ways people are making money and working together and doing things. As far as film music goes, that's, I think, has been less something people in this business do. We're hoping to change that. One of the nice things about USC is that we've already started working with some of the people at the film scoring department, and there's a nice young man here named Patrick Kirst, who you should interview. He's a composition person, and he called me up and he came by my office and he started looking at my instruments. He said, well, what is this key and what key is this? And then he asked me to play some pieces he wrote very quickly for a stage production here. And that was very nice, because he said, look, if I have an English horn and I want to use the English horn to sound like I'm in Israel and at the time of, the crucifixion, that's one thing. But if I have an instrument that sounds even more folky, it gives me more flavor. So he's been interested in that. And I've met with his students. So my hope is that we have something to give also to people who are doing composition. Another angle of that is that one of my focuses is early improvisation and early compositional process. And so both for composition people, for jazz people, I think early music has a great resource to offer, because if you recreate a compositional process from 1500, there are things you learn about the way people looked at music and thought about it. And that's also the next movement in my field. Up to now, people have been playing old pieces, but much of the old music being made from 1700 and before was improvised, and improvised with very, very set rules. We know what the rules were doing. We have examples of what people were doing, and we have rule books for how they did it. And the closer you get to recreating that practice, the more you kind of get in the mindset of why a composed piece is that way, that's actually just the tail of another dog. So that's been very exciting dealing with. I also teach courses in music history, and one of the courses I taught last semester was 15th century improvisation, and that was some of my best students were jazz students. One thing people did in the 15th century was if they wrote a song, they'd refer to somebody else's song for a very specific reason. The same way Noel Coward and Cole Porter wrote when we begin to begin, and Noel Coward write a song about Nina from Argentina who didn't want to dance. She refused to begin. So they did this in the 15th century too. And the best students I had at actually finding those references and recognizing things with jazz students, because they recognize people doing motives and things. So it's a nice place we have to meet.